Hey guys, I wanted to do a short video, trying to keep it to 20 minutes, talking about metabolism as I am leading a seminar coming up in the next few weeks. I want to share with you a little bit of what I'm going to be presenting in the seminar about how to improve your future self and really looking at ways we can test and not guess, as I am all about personalizing our programs for nutrition, exercise, lifestyle habits, and supplementation. And as I say, you don't know really what you don't know. So unless we look under the hood and look at what is going on in your body, and then we discuss in coaching sessions what's going on outside of your body in your life, right? So going back to the way we were raised, to childhood, young adult experiences, trauma, all that can add to why we do what we do and how chronic stress can be related to our previous experiences in life. And what I want to do today is just to focus on some definitions. So, measuring your resting metabolism is what we do with the face mask on. So, I put a video on my YouTube and Instagram yesterday about how we use PNOE metabolism testing. What even does it mean? Because as I struggle to get people to understand how important this information is, and it's only a few $100s, that's well worth that investment in your health today to be your best self in the future. By getting this data and then figuring out what you need to do to be even better. And then we retest every 2-3 months. Now, the RMR, resting metabolic rate, and the active metabolic rate is called the AMR. We're using an indirect calometry. This is analyzing whether it's gone. If you inhale, what you inhale is oxygen consumption, or the volume of oxygen is VO2. And when we exhale, we're breathing out carbon dioxide. So it's a carbon dioxide production. So that means the volume of carbon dioxide is VCO2. Now, this determines our metabolic efficiency and what substrate utilization. So that means how much fat, carbohydrates you're using for fuel while we're doing nothing. In the resting test, you're laying there trying to chill for 10-15 minutes. And then overall energy expenditure in the active metabolism test, where we gradually increase the speed, the watts, the incline, make it a little bit harder every 1 to 2 minutes. Or if we're doing a peak fat max test, I'm doing 3 to 5 minutes per stage. We don't go to your max VO2. We're going to just where we look at what is the RER exchange ratio. So RER is a fat to carb burn. And so when we're looking at the ratio of the fat to carbs, we're really looking at the volume of oxygen to carbon dioxide. Is that exchange ratio gives us a number. 0.7, for example, means you're burning primarily fat. When the number of RER is 0.85, that means you are burning 50-50 fat to carbohydrates. When that number gets around 1.0 or above, we are burning strictly carbohydrates for fuel. And we don't need to measure lactate, but I can do a lactate blood test, as I have a kit from the company is FORA, FORA. I can do finger prick tests, but we really don't need to, because people only do lactate testing, I feel, when they don't have the availability to do this test. So it's a simple blood finger prick where we're actually measuring the fat to carb usage. And so when people are saying, what's your lactate threshold? We're really using that, as Peter Attia talks about, your lactate being under 2.0 millimoles to be in your zone 2, where we're truly identifying your zone 2 based on the bottom of zone 2 is your peak fat max. Where is your heart rate when you're burning closest to that 0.7 RER, and avoiding that metabolic crossover point above 0.85, say to 0.9, your carbohydrate usage is up and the fat goes down. So we're also measuring in the resting test your sympathetic and parasympathetic dominance. So we're putting a chest strap on. Are you having a lot of stress in your life as well as internally that you are more wired right now, and we need to correct it? to a sympathetic dominant fight or flight state. So we can identify that in a heart rate variability testing with the heart rate strap. As I've said, Oura Ring, Whoop, Garmin, all of them give you a number for heart rate variability, but it's not really telling us the full story. And then we're looking at your fuel source used and oxygen and breathing measurements. So when we're looking at the active metabolism, AMR, it's how many calories you're burning and the fuel you're using. When we're doing PNOE testing, I've kind of changed it, not to say VO2 max, it's the VO2 peak that I really see. And even on our reports, you see a sample page on the right, heart rate max or VO2 peak, because a lot of times people get their test done when it's their first time, they really are not going all out unless they have, well, if they're really competitive, know how to go to the pain cave. But even still, I think it's your first experience with the mask on, breathing. It's kind of awkward. So I don't really believe majority of people get their max, VO2 max. We are getting more heart rate max and VO2 peak, but I know there's always a little room to go next time because sometimes people's face is sweaty and they just want to get it all off and they might not go another minute that they could. So when we do the follow-up test, now they know what it's like and they really can push themselves if needed. But what I'm finding, what I really feel is beneficial for the majority of people to do this test to improve your fat metabolism, your metabolic health, to improve your longevity markers is a VO2 max. But really, what I feel we need to understand doing metabolism testing is looking at your peak fat max so we can identify this chart on the right. What is your zone 1, zone 2? What are your fuel sources used in these 5 zones? Looking at more your efficiency at using fat for fuel. So in this bottom chart, we look at fat max. Say this example report is 125. And so we can look at all these where you start to shift fuel source, what heart rate, and where you start to feel it starts to be harder. And that's really looking at the fuel source. So what do we get from this that benefits everyone is metabolic health, your mitochondria. So mitochondria, as you know, is we talk about ATP. How much energy can we create? Our cells have mitochondria in them, except for a red blood cell. And the ability of the mitochondria to create more energy is mitochondrial capacity. Now, density, how many mitochondria can we fit into each cell is mitochondrial density. And then we talk about the enzymes involved in the electron transport chain. And you can get into that. I'm reading a very difficult to read at night book on the mitochondria. Not good before bed when you're half sleepy face, sleepy eyes, but mitochondria health and electron transport change, how the energy train system needs to work to create this ATP. Now, mitochondria biogenesis and mitochondria efficiency and the mitochondria autophagy is what I want to promote people to get this metabolism test, because we don't know unless we do this type of tests and correlate that with the mitochondria test that Dr. Patel is doing called MeScreen, organic acids test, and ideally do a blood chemistry, a Dutch hormone test, and a stool test of your microbiome to get the whole picture of what's going on under the hood so we can improve how you age so you're living your best life, living and feeling and moving and thriving your best self as you're older. So mitochondrial biogenesis, as a review, is the process to make new biogenesis, create new cells, new mitochondria. Now, efficiency obviously means how efficiently these mitochondria are. So how efficient are they, mitochondria in our cells, creating ATP? As we get older, I've done other videos, what happens? We get more mitochondria dysfunction. We're losing cells functioning at optimal level with these mitochondria. And I listened to Dr. Patel, and I'll try to have other experts on mitochondria health come on the show, but really understanding how important the health of our mitochondria is to the quality of life as we age. And even as I talk about skin health and gut health and muscle and brain health, heart health, it all comes down to being fit and healthy from the inside out at a cellular level. So mitochondria, we want to be working at optimal level. How do we get new ones? Because as we get older, we have more damaged, dysfunctional cells. Same as I started to say this, same as my skin health program I'm working on. It's more what happens as we age that we get skin wrinkles, thin skin, loss of elasticity, sagging skin. I don't want that. So if I investigate, same thing here, why does this happen as we age? It's really so much that we control. We have to make up for that loss. We have to eat more protein, lift heavier weights. We have to add more collagen precursors. We have to add more of this and that because we're losing it as we get older. We have more need for antioxidants, glutathione. So as we go into metabolic efficiency testing, sliding my video face here, being more efficient. So using PNOE metabolism, how well do we burn fat at rest and at lower intensities? So you'll hear my friend Brad Kearns all over these amazing podcasts and talking about your peak fat max. With Brad has a new book with Mark Sisson on Born to Walk and the importance of training at your peak fat max, or you're doing sprint interval training, saying, which I agree, running is just hard on your body. I have injury right now. It's just always something going on with ability to run properly and efficiently. Now, is it better just to keep your training at that peak fat max, which is the bottom of your zone 2, and looking at metabolic flexibility, improving our ability to burn fat, and then use carbohydrates when we're doing our sprint interval training. And then after that, we can go back to be burning fat. So we want to be metabolically efficient and metabolically flexible. Walking to get my heart rate peak fat max might not work for me, but someone that is not efficient at using fat for fuel, their peak fat max, when I test them, might be at 85 heart rate. So we need to get them to improve their metabolic efficiency and fat burning. And we've talked about this for years. I've talked about this with Brad. We all talked about early on in our podcast, Maffetone. Phil Maffetone is one that taught us 180 minus your age, max aerobic function heart rate. I did New Leaf metabolic testing on people starting in 2005. I've done this training since I started Ironmans in 2001. I worked with Sally Edwards, who created Heart Zone training back in 2000. Before 2000, I was like 1995. I go way back in this space. So I know the importance of training by heart rate and using intuition, but training your body to improve fat metabolism is what we've talked about since we started this podcast. It used to be called Fit, Fat, Fast, how to use fat for fuel so you can get faster for endurance sports. Now I'm talking about how to be metabolically healthy to improve your mitochondria health. So we're improving how we age at a cellular level. So we are metabolically healthy. So yes, I am a retired endurance athlete. A lot of our audience here is endurance athletes, but in general, if anyone is wanting to be a health optimizer, I want you to do this test, and you don't have to run. I do the treadmill test with some people walking, and we put it up an incline. So really, we don't need to be intimidated. I want you to be motivated to take care of your health today. So we're working on our emotional health, how we're training, our nutrition, our recovery, and our sleep, our breathing, our movement in nature, how we start the day, how we end the day. So metabolic health is a key player behind health, weight loss, energy, longevity, and metabolism. It's a process which your body converts food you consume into energy for its intermediate or immediate use, or to be used as storage for fuel later. Metabolic health refers to the optimal functioning of metabolic processes in the body. And this requires energy production that's efficient and stored and used well. We want to get the body to have its own innate intelligence to balance our blood sugar, keep our lipid profiles healthy, Lower is not better. It's the Goldilocks effect. Sometimes less is more, but sometimes we need to remember lower is not better, like cholesterol. You need some of it, insulin, cortisol. It's all good in the right dose. Now, good metabolic health is crucial for overall well-being, disease prevention, and longevity. So we want to do metabolism testing and correlate this, as I said, with other labs, nutritional therapy intake forms, your energy, your metabolic chaos markers. But tracking fat burn efficiency through tools as PNOE resting metabolic rate gives us actionable insights into your metabolic health and your mitochondria function. So by addressing lifestyle factors, improving your capacity of your fat oxidation system, aerobic capacity to enhance fat burning efficiency, support better health and longevity, is really what I wish everyone would do, and that it's something we can do without a lot of discomfort. So that's why I don't like to think about metabolism testing as VO2 max, because that word is intimidating and turns off a lot of people that are the normal population, average population. So why is it so important? Again, mitochondria health. Efficient fat burning is hallmark of healthy, well-functioning mitochondria, crucial for energy production, overall cellular health. Studies suggest correlation of mitochondria health, metabolic flexibility, and increased lifespan. So longevity markers, we need to be looking at fat burn efficiency. If we are concerned about our weight, improving our fat oxidation to enhance our metabolic health, which helps us reduce our risk of insulin resistance, which leads to type 2 diabetes, and all of it will be resulting in obesity because we're just storing more fat, we're not burning it. Now, having a higher fat burning efficiency that we can work on with your metabolism test, and then we do assessment and give you an action plan, can help lower your systemic inflammation, improve your resiliency. So what impacts your ability to burn fat? I always look at what went wrong, what's going wrong. So why do these things change as we age, or what happens? So positive factors that influence your fat burning efficiency are how you're exercising to improve the mitochondria density efficiency. So getting more mitochondria in each cell, and then so packing those cells up with as many mitochondria as we can and getting them more efficient, creating more energy. Getting quality sleep, balancing our hormones, helping our metabolic health, getting a rich, nutrient-dense whole foods diet, avoiding processed foods in a package, basically. We want to avoid, unless you can read all the ingredients, you know where they came from, and you know how to pronounce those ingredients. Now, sunlight exposure, improving your sleep-wake cycle, your circadian rhythm, helps cellular function. So talking about light with Lumati Wellness, we'll talk to them soon. And then processed foods are negative factors, increasing your inflammation with the processed foods that the standard American diet is filled of. I know as people get older, they don't seem to want to cook anymore. So they're buying all the packaged foods that they can just heat up in the plastic in the microwave, and they are having that for dinner, for breakfast. They might have cereal and just all these empty calories. But then think about the damage to your body when we're getting this pre-packaged food. So it's filled with, I don't know what it's not real food. And half the ingredients are really long, lots of chemicals added, preservatives, but they're getting it from Trader Joe's, from Costco, whatever pre-food it's coming from, but it's wrapped in plastic, and the container's plastic. Then you put it in the microwave. So not only are you getting the damage of processed foods, you just added toxic bomb to your food by melting these microplastics into your food, then you eat it. So it's so awful to think how many people do that. Alcohol. So a lot of people think alcohol is good for them and think that they need that. Now, if you're drinking alcohol every night because you think it's good source of some polyphenols, you have to drink a bottle or more of wine a night, then you're probably having some alcoholism problems. So we want to make sure getting our nutrients, getting polyphenols from other foods, antioxidants, but really working on avoiding impairing the mitochondrial function, fat oxidation with your alcohol consumption. I don't drink very much, and if I do, it's 2 drinks maximum, and I don't drink more than 2 nights a week if I drink at all. And my go-to drink is a vodka with sparkling water, club soda with some lemon lime, muddled mint or something. Now, eating late at night alters your metabolism and your ability to use fat for fuel. So I do have a rule for myself and then try to share those with clients, not eating 3 hours before bed. And I want to go to bed to get my 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So for me to wake up to go to the gym in the morning, you have to reverse engineer your own schedule. But I try not to eat unless I'm hungry. I have a little beef stick jerky or something, but I don't eat after 5 o'clock. Unless I'm hungry, then I do respect my body and take a little something. Now, being sedentary, of course, decreases mitochondrial density and the efficiency of our mitochondria. So why do they matter? If you want to go deep, we can go into all this another time. Mitochondrial dysfunction, signs and symptoms of dysfunction. I mean, really, it's amazing if you read this book of mitochondria, how we just need it for every cell, even skin health. I was looking at information on mitochondria in our skin to have our skin creates ATP, the mitochondria and the skin cells under the surface. Now, going back to what I test, metabolism testing, we're measuring your oxygen in VO2, and we can get our VO2 peak or max, and that's going to help us assess your mitochondrial capacity during higher intensities. Again, don't be intimidated by that because I can change the protocol and just do a peak fat max test that's 3 to 5 minutes at each stage to get an average of fuel source and heart rate. So we can focus on lower RER. You're at rest, you burn fat efficiently. If you have a high RER at rest, you have reliance on carbohydrates, potentially indicating mitochondrial dysfunction. Now, metabolic efficiency, we're looking at how you're using fuel at rest and then during different intensities. But if your mitochondria have dysfunction, this can lead to lower metabolic efficiency and more reliance on carbohydrates. Then I like to correlate this with, as I get trained in the me screen, mitochondria cell tests that we just talked to Dr. Patel and did a great video on, and I have my kit laid out on the counter to do tomorrow. Correlate this also with your blood chemistry panel. Looking at your insulin, I want to see your A1C, your triglycerides, CRP, and look at the other labs, but for sure we want to see the insulin level. All right, mitochondria function, anything else? Look there, and reactive oxygen species I keep talking about. But how mitochondria are so important to health. Metabolism testing, mitochondria function, other things we're going to look at, potential treatments we can talk about when we get your test results. Do you need CoQ10, as I just did? How organ capsules are a good source of CoQ10 and B vitamins. Biooptimizers I use for magnesium with some B6 and L-carnitine. I'm using Cynthia Thurlow's carnitine and B vitamins are all in our creatine plus drink packet I have in my water in the morning. And then getting the right type of exercise. So figuring out how we can create new mitochondria and get rid of the dead mitochondria. So which workout program is best for you for treating mitochondria? Reducing inflammation, oxidative stress, getting your antioxidants, vitamin C, E, and glutathione, or precursors to glutathione. And then boosting mitochondrial function. There's different supplements you can do as well, but I think looking at exercise and nutrition first and stress. So when we get the report, we're getting all these different markers. You can see all the different things we're testing, not just peak fat max, but we're also doing breath analysis. So we're getting the face mask on and looking at your oxygen to carbon dioxide ratio, and then the rate of breathing and a lot of other markers. And the resting metabolism test, we're looking at your metabolic age, respiratory exchange ratio we talked about, calories burned at rest. And then we're looking at personalized macronutrients if you need to improve your mTOR versus AMPK. I will get some clues towards that if your nervous system is out of balance. And looking at your calories a day and then your percentage of fat to carbohydrates as this chart on the right. And then see if you're burning fat day to day. You can get a lumen. It's very affordable. Little breath test you can do, and you can save with our Coach Debbie Potts discount code on lumen. All right, so that's all I wanted to share today. So let me know if you have questions and I can send you some information. Just head to the comments below. Make sure you hit subscribe and share this if you love to learn more about how to be your best self in the future, being a health optimizer for metabolic health. Thanks for listening and watching.